Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Easy Prepping channel with your old Uncle Carl here. Today, I'd like to bring you a little lesson on best by dates, especially in commercially canned food. They print on there a best by date, which means that's when the quality of the food, the nutritional value, should be the same as when they packed it. But after that, it will start to decline. It may start to decline. That's why a lot of canned foods are good well past their best by date. Well, I made a trip to my Wally Mart grocery the other day. I believe it was April 18th of 2023, by the way, so you'll know how these dates apply. Anyway, I went down the canned food, canned meat aisle and tried to select cans with the longest best by dates so I could bring them to you and say, here's what to look for. Anyway, if you're going to go to the grocery and you want to be able to read these dates, don't forget your glasses, especially if your eyeballs are getting up in age like mine are. Now, before we start into the canned goods, I'd like to bring up one thing. I was noticing the salt aisle. By the way, iodized salt. There is a difference between iodized and regular salt. But 2 years ago, I believe these were about 45, 47 cents. A year ago, they'd gone up to about 53, 55 cents. This one the other day was 64 cents. That is right about a 50% increase in 2 years. And yeah, they're making it pretty tough on us Americans at the grocery store. Anyway, the reason I know the value of salt, back in high school, I read a book. It was required. It was an assignment called Alas, Babylon by an author named Pat Frank. This was published in 1959. It's basically premised on the Cold War era. And if the shit hit the fan, then. Anyway, the value of salt is in that book. It goes into they needed salt. They were working a lot doing gardens. It was in Florida. It was in summer. And they were sweating and they started getting sick from lack of salt in their bodies. And that taught me way back then in high school, which a couple years ago, the importance of having salt on the shelf. Now let's get into these canned goods here that I bought to show you. First one is, well, tuna fish. I have a lot of tuna fish on the shelf, but I picked this one up so that I could show you all that the best by date on it is 10/25, 2.5 years from now. Anyway, there's a long-term shelf life on tuna fish. And next we have up some canned meats that are really a more expensive brand. The Keystone does cost more than others you can find out there, but I believe it's a better quality and it has a longer shelf life. This can pork was $9.22. But its best by date is January 30th of 28. 5 years. And it's good, I'm pretty sure, for quite a while after that. And go along with it, a can of the same brand of chicken, which is best by date of 2/3/28, which is still about 5 years out. It was a little cheaper. It was $8.25. Next, I'd like to bring up the canned beans, commercially canned beans I'm talking about. First, Great Northern beans, which are what they call the Great Value. That's the Wally Mart brand. But this was 78 cents. It has a best by date of January of 25. Still about 2 years out, and I'm pretty certain it'd be good for quite a while after that. I also noticed the dark red kidney beans had a pretty long shelf life of January 25 and also 78 cents. One quick point, I haven't really nailed it down, but it seems to me there's a store in town I also use that's called JC. It's Kroger brand. It's owned by Kroger. But it's always seemed to me that the Best Buy brands have a longer shelf life than the Kroger brands. And one I picked up here, this is an example. This is the Wally Mart brand of petite diced tomatoes. But if you stop and think about it, there's a ton of recipes that require some type of tomatoes. And at 88 cents a can, sometimes you can find them a little cheaper on sale. Best by date of August 25, over 2 years out. And once again, I'm pretty sure it'd be good long after that. But I have a lot of cans of tomatoes on the shelf in the basement of different types, prepared different ways, so that we'd be able to make different recipes, soups, stews, things like that in an SHTF scenario. Next up, I'd like to point out the importance of having a variety in your meals in an SHTF scenario. And just plain beans and rice is going to get pretty boring pretty quick. So these cost a little more, and there's a brand here. They didn't pay me anything, but it's Margaret Holmes. This one is the triple succotash. There's a meal in a can if you just like succotash, and my wife does. Anyway, this was $1.42, so it's a little bit more for them to go ahead and prepare the meal in a can. But its best by date is June of 25. Another product they have, which I know my wife would love because she loves squash and Vidalia onions. Here they've combined those two. This one was also $1.42. And the best by date is, June 2nd of 25. I should need to write that one on there with a Sharpie so I can see it easier. And then she also loves butter beans. And here we have seasoned butter beans. Believe me, you got to keep the wife happy in the SHTF scenario. Keep them happy all the time. $1.42, but November of 25 is the best by date on those. And I have two more here. This one, another thing to go in soups or stews, pots of beans, cooked ham. This probably has, I think, the longest shelf life of any of these. It is December of 2027, and it costs $4.32. If you don't have any of these in your pantry, I'd recommend getting some. They'll last a long time on the shelf. And last, but certainly not least, everyone's favorite long-term canned food is Spam. This one, and oh boy, the prices have gone up in these the last few years. $3.58. Its printed best by date is January 26. I don't know what, maybe they mean 2126. These will last a long time on the shelf. Now I'd like to ask that if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do. Give me that thumbs up button. And today's quote is by Louis Pasteur. That's the gentleman that we have to thank for pasteurization. The quote, "Fortune favors the prepared mind." Thank you for watching.